Hey guys, what's up? I thought we should just give you some tidbits and tell you my story. So I just like have had this YouTube channel and I've had my podcast now for a while, and I haven't actually sat down and told y'all my story. I was the guest on a podcast, so I thought, it's like that's the first time I've actually told my full story to anybody. Like on a platform, I tell my story to my friends. I'm pretty much an open book with everybody. So like, if you know me, you probably already know all of this. But if you don't know me, I feel like we should get to know each other a little bit better. I have 4 siblings, and I grew up in a household that was Christian. And growing up, I had a great childhood. Like, I loved my childhood. I loved my friend and my family and everything. I had a really close relationship with my dad growing up, and then just a close relationship with my siblings, much better now, obviously, since we're older and kind of fall out of the house. And but yeah, so there's that. And then my parents got divorced when I was in like 3rd, 4th grade, and it kind of all went downhill after that. So basically they got divorced, and we kind of didn't know the full story. And then my mom started like dating around, and we were kind of exposed to like all of her boyfriends and stuff. It was really weird. It was a weird dynamic, and we were only allowed to see our dad like every other weekend and Wednesdays, which literally isn't a lot at all. And I didn't know this until like recently, that our mom had been abusive longer than I was aware of. I was only aware of after our parents got divorced, where she was definitely verbally and emotionally abusive, but specifically she was physically abusive a few times. But there was one time before school where she had hit my brother a lot, and then slapped my sister really hard. Like, not like it was like real hard. And so there was a mark on her face from the ring on our mother's finger. And yeah, so that kind of was the day where, I went to my teacher and I was like we were late to school, which was not a new thing. We were always late. But this day we were like an hour late. And I walked straight into my classroom, straight to my teacher. And I said, my brother and sister were just hit a bunch by my mom. And she pulled me right out. Miss Powers, literally, she handled the situation so perfectly. And she just, literally an angel, no joke, like an angel sent from above for us at that moment. And so she went and she had me call my dad, and then she called the police. And so DPS and everything came. Okay, so that was a whole thing. So our dad went and spent all day getting custody of us so that we wouldn't have to go back, because of course we were supposed to go back because of visitation and everything. And so our dad finally got temporary custody of us for a while, and then went to court and everything. So then our dad got permanent custody, and then our mom got custody with visitation, and public visitation. It couldn't be at the house, it had to be in public. And so we did that a couple times, but I am a nice person, right? But when it came to that, I did not leave any slack. So I would not allow her to touch my little sister. I would not allow her to even try to hug me. I was like, this is so ridiculous. I should have a choice in whether or not I want to see my abusive mother or not. That should not have been something that was forced upon kids who obviously were uncomfortable in that situation. And everybody said, well, she's your mother. Okay, yes, she was my mother. But the day that she laid hands on us in that way, she stopped being my mom. And I told people that all the time. Y'all can say you need your mother, and I agree, you do. everybody needs a mother, but you need a healthy relationship with your mother. If you do not have one, then having a mother is actually worse for you than not. And that was something that I've like, it's taken me a long time to learn, because it was like such trauma to get through. And so yeah, so that happened, and it was something that it was like, okay, yeah, we're like with our dad, and like, oh my goodness, like this is awesome. Like I'm so glad we're with our dad. He got custody of us. It was I mean, it really was just such a relief that we could go to bed at night and know we were safe. The thing about everything was that we didn't really have time to like adjust and heal from everything. So this was like a really long process. And I just know like birthdays, Mother's Day, everything was just like really like I didn't want to celebrate it. I have an amazing stepmom. Like she is awesome. She is my mom. Like I know she was made for us and for this family. And but regardless, it was like in a just the hardest transition. Like it, to this day I still struggle with kind of just like accepting everything. I mean, and that all happened when we were like 6th, 7th grade. So like it's been a while, but it feels so recent and fresh sometimes. But yeah, so she's like our mother's like extremely manipulative and everything, and like she has this whole side of the story where it was the other way around, but like we lived it. So like I lived this thing. Like I what? Like literally what? Anyways, that's just not the point of the story. I'm not like trying to bash her, like go live your life, girl, whatever. But basically kind of like growing up, my junior year of high school, my freshman sophomore year was kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie. Like I thrived athletically in softball. Yeah, at this time I totally forgot about this huge aspect of my life, but like my mom wouldn't allow me to play softball because my dad was the coach. So when my dad got full custody, I went full throttle into softball because I really wanted to play. And so I got super competitive and started joining travel ball teams and traveling everywhere. Okay, fast forward. Freshman, sophomore year, I like peaked athletically. Like I was just doing so well. But like I was not living the life that Christ wanted me to live. And I like first shared my testimony in front of like all of FCA, which is Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That I don't think was a mistake. I definitely think I needed to do it, but it really wasn't much of a testimony. It was me just trauma dumping on everybody. And so it's kind of like, it's not embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed of my story, but it was just kind of not, I don't think that's what the Lord wanted me to do, was like trauma dump on everybody, because it really didn't like show anybody anything differently about me. So it was kind of like, but yeah, so my freshman and sophomore year, I definitely was not living for Christ at all. Like wasn't doing anything like drinking or anything, but I was like, cussing all the time. And not that that's like, but you could tell, like, if you met me, you probably wouldn't know I was a Christian. So it was kind of like, all that. And so my junior year of high school, we moved to Texas, and it was like, I was so angry, like all the time. Like I was just angry all the time. I was like, I can't believe y'all took me away from all my friends, blah, blah, blah. Came to find out most of the people I thought were my friends were not my friends. So that wasn't like that huge of an adjustment. And then like, not that they were mean people, but like we just didn't stay in touch. So it wasn't like anything like that. And yeah, so I was like super angry, and my dad made me get plugged into the local church over here, and that's kind of when everything started changing for me. I got really plugged in. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry for yawning. I got really plugged into my small group and everything, and it really radically changed me. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I understand now why I should be living for Christ. And so that was kind of, I first shared that some like stuff that happened in my childhood that I don't think I need to be sharing on the internet just yet. And then some stuff that happened in high school and that just had like really hurt me that I had never actually shared. And that was like a relief, and I had never felt comfortable enough to talk to anybody about it until then. And so I got that off my chest, and I was finally like living a Christian life. And then in that like first semester we were here, and then second semester of my junior year we transferred to a Christian school, and then I kind of fell back into my old like sin and everything, just because I mean, I was around a bunch of Christians, so I was like, I mean, they're doing this and they're so Christian, so like I can do this and I'm so Christian. So I fell into a bunch of just like not great stuff. And I was just kind of back in this rut. And so I stayed in that rut, and then I went to college to play softball, and I mean, softball was my life, my identity. I didn't do anything else but softball. So, and I loved it. Like, I ate it up. I loved it. And so I get to college my freshman year, and again, like, we're just doing the same things. I kind of got into the wrong friend group. And then kind of just, it kind of went downhill from there. And then February of my freshman year is kind of when everything hit the fan. And that's when it was my wake-up call. And that was God's way of telling me, hey, it's time to get out of this crap that you're doing and, you know, get on the horse and let's go do what you're supposed to be doing. And I firmly believe that that is what happened. But my February of my freshman year, I dove on our concrete indoor facility, and I didn't hit my head. I know that a lot of people still think I hit my head. I didn't hit my head. I basically got whiplash, but I hit the ground so hard that my head went like and knocked my brain around, and so I got a concussion from that. It was pretty bad, but I had concussions before, so I was like, you know, it was like an average concussion. It was definitely worse than the ones I've had, but it wasn't like extreme, right? I wasn't unconscious or anything like that. And so then I kept playing on it because I was like, it's not that serious to like stop playing just for one measly concussion. And I was a freshman, and I really wanted to play that season. Oh my, I really want to play that season. So I was like, you know, let's freaking go. I'm not stopping. If anything, I'm going harder because now I look like a little wuss. And so my friends definitely knew something was going on, and I had like talked to them about it, but I just kept playing, kept pushing myself, kept going harder. My coach just literally, hold on, I need to gather my thoughts so that I don't say something I'm gonna regret. She did not handle the situation very well, and she kind of like didn't, I guess, know what was going on. But then after, they had to pull me because I had gotten concussion on top, like I've gotten multiple concussions on top of the one I had because I kept playing on it. And so my brain was so susceptible to concussions because it was like I had a concussion that I kept just getting one after the other every time I would dive and stuff. And that was literally the worst. And so I felt horrible. I was sick all the time. I couldn't eat. I wanted to sleep all the time. I just like, my eyes were messed up. Like I couldn't see. Like when I get on the field, I couldn't focus on the ball. It was quite literally one of the worst things I've ever had to experience. And I was extremely depressed and very anxious, and like it just, honestly, I was very moody and emotional, and I just couldn't control my emotions. I was definitely not fun to be around, that's for sure. But yeah, so my friends, teammates basically eventually just got to the point where they just told my coach that I was obviously having these headaches and symptoms and stuff. And so yeah, because I would just wake up with a headache and go to sleep with a headache. Like it was an all-day extravaganza. And so basically I just lived an entire season, because I did that until about April of that season. So I went from February to April playing with concussions. And so yeah, it was just kind of this like continuous cycle of just pain and suffering. And my friends, I just are enormously supportive, and I've never met anybody like them. It's making me emotional talking about them because I just love them so much and they deserve the whole world. Gosh, I just like really haven't talked about this in a while. Okay, anyways, so basically, I went to lots of doctors for a while, like almost a year, and I just wasn't getting any relief. They tried to put me on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicine. I got glasses. And then I came to a doctor here because I wasn't getting any relief from the doctors in Moorhead. And so they told me, like, you know, because they can't really say, hey, you need to stop playing. So I asked them, I said, okay, be honest with me, because like I don't want to stop playing, but I don't want to feel like this forever. And I don't want this to happen again. So if I were your kid, what would you tell them to do? And every doctor I asked that question to said, I would tell them to stop playing immediately. If you want to have any future at all, you need to stop playing, because eventually it's going to get to the point where you're not even going to be able to function and you're going to need help all the time. And then I did a lot of research, and all of the articles I read said the same thing. Like I had had too many concussions and that I needed to be cut off, and that they would never clear me to play until I didn't have concussion symptoms. And I mean, to this day, over a year and a half later, I'm still having symptoms. So I don't even think, even if I continued to play, that I would even have, I mean, I would never have gotten cleared, honestly. So yeah, so that was like a really hard thing for me to hear. And again, I kind of went back into this like depression, and I was just suffering a lot. And so the fall of my sophomore year, which was this past year, we had to go home for COVID or whatever for a little bit. It was like a little COVID thing, thingy thing. So our team had to leave a lot. So I was driving home, and it was a 10.5 hour drive to Arkansas. I was going to stay with my grandparents. And I just like was in the car, and I was just praying and praying and crying and praying and crying and crying and crying and praying. And I mean, I was radically changed, because even going into my sophomore year with my concussion, I was still not living the life Christ wanted me to live. I mean, my whole freshman year, I didn't. The beginning of my sophomore year, I didn't. I just was really struggling with coming to terms with everything that's happened to me with my mom in the past, and everything that's happened with me with my concussion. And honestly, I just didn't want to even think about it. I didn't want to have to deal with it. I wanted to continue to be kind of like the life of the party, and I wanted everybody to love me and everybody to just like want to be around me. And so I was worried about everybody else and not really worried about fixing my own stuff. And so I was driving home, and I was just praying and crying a lot. Like I didn't have music on. I just was talking to God, and I was like, I need you. I need help. I need this right now. I don't have anything. I've lost all my identity. I feel like I don't have friends, because I have just hit this wall where I feel like everybody hates me all the time. And oh my gosh, I never cry about this. So I just had like a lot of dark and like negative thoughts, and that drive really like it really healed me. And and I just got home, and I was like, Nana, I'm gonna start a podcast. I was like, I'm going through a lot, and I feel like it will help me, and it will help other people just know that like you're not alone in your struggles, because I feel alone. And I just was like, I don't want to feel alone, and I don't want anybody to feel the way I feel all the time. And I just still wake up with these concussions and these symptoms, and it's like the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, because it took away everything, and it was something I could have controlled. And she was like, yeah, so like full throttle went into it, and I figured out how to start a podcast. I figured it out and asked around. I had friends who knew, um and like family friends who knew how to start a podcast, and so I fully kicked it off like a week, and everybody I knew just fully, completely, just 100% supported everything I was doing, and it completely transformed my mental health. Like, I went from literally not being able to get out of bed to literally being excited to wake up the next day. And I just, like, everybody was just so supportive, and my friends were just amazing. They still are, and everybody is just, like, so excited for me all the time. And, like, seriously, I don't think I would have survived this long without such a supportive group of people. And for like God continuously chasing after me and like telling me I have purpose. And so I just wanted to share this story with you guys because I still struggle with these things. I still have concussion symptoms. I still struggle with like not feeling like I have purpose and feeling lonely at times, but ultimately I go back to this story because it has continuously pushed me forward, telling me that I always have people supporting me. I always have my podcast that has continuously pulled me out of the rut that I'm in, and the people on there have completely helped me so much because they talk about their stories, and it is so encouraging and inspiring because they have gone through things that I just can't even fathom. And so ultimately, the reason I'm sharing my story is not for like a pity party. It's not for y'all to watch me cry, because sometimes this is quite embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed right now. I'm just extremely emotional. And so I just wanted to share this with you guys to show you that there's a story behind everything. This podcast has completely changed my life, and I know it has changed other people's lives. And so I just wanted to tell you, regardless of what you're going through and how dark it feels and how lonely you feel, there is good. There's a lot of good. And I wanted you guys to just kind of hear my story because I feel like everybody's story is so important and everybody needs to share their story. So I guess ultimately, I just want you guys to know that you're loved and you're cared for, and just lay it at the feet of the Lord because He'll help you kind of see what your next steps are. Anyways, thanks for listening. Love you.